There are seasons in life when the nights feel too long, the days too heavy, and our hearts too tired to carry the weight of just one more thing. Maybe you know that feeling, the quiet ache of showing up day after day, while inside you're wondering if God still sees you. You've done your best to stay strong, to remain faithful, to smile even when life has made you cry. And yet, beneath all of it, there is that haunting question. Am I walking this road alone? The answer, my friend, is a resounding no. You are not walking alone. God walks with you, in your highs and lows, in your laughter and in your tears, in your confusion and your courage. He is there. He promised it. I will never leave you nor forsake you, Hebrews 13:5. This isn't just a comforting phrase, it's the foundation of your identity as a beloved child of God. You are never abandoned. You are never unseen. Even when you can't feel Him, even when the silence is deafening, God is still near. He is still guiding. He is still holding your life with tenderness and purpose. And today, this message is your reminder that the journey you're on matters. Your presence matters. Your healing matters. And most of all, you matter to God. Let us begin. When life breaks you, God holds you. The Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in spirit. Psalm 34:18. There are moments in life when you don't just feel pain, you become it. When loss isn't a concept but a reality you wake up to every morning. When grief doesn't knock on your door but moves in and sits at your table. When failure whispers that your best wasn't enough and you start believing it. Pain, in its many forms, has a way of silencing hope and making us question everything. It can feel like a betrayal of your prayers, your efforts, your dreams. But friend, if you're walking through that kind of season right now, I want you to hear something deeper than your despair. God is still with you, not just in theory, not just in theology, but in the raw, unfiltered reality of your heartbreak. He doesn't stand at a distance waiting for you to fix yourself. No, He steps into your sorrow with compassion. Jesus wept at Lazarus' tomb, not because He lacked power to heal, but because He wanted to show us that divine love feels, that God isn't cold or mechanical, but present and emotional, moved by what breaks us. In your pain, God is not absent. He's as close as your breath. Consider Maria, a young mother in Spain who lost her husband to cancer while pregnant with their second child. Every day felt like drowning in an ocean of grief. But through the kindness of her church community and the whispered prayers she could barely speak, she began to sense something greater than her pain, a gentle hand holding her up. God didn't take the pain away, she said, but He gave me strength to carry it without being crushed. That's the miracle. Not always a rescue from pain, but a companion through it. We live in a culture that fears vulnerability. We're taught to hide our sadness, to stay strong even when we're falling apart. But the gospel flips that script. Jesus says, "Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted." Matthew 5:4. Comfort, not shame. Healing, not hiding. The cracks in your heart don't disqualify you from God's presence. They become the places He pours His love into most. Sometimes the greatest strength is not in standing tall, but in falling into the arms of God when you can't stand at all. So don't rush your healing. Don't force yourself to move on before you're ready. Let your wounds be held. Let your tears be seen. Let yourself be human. Because it is there, in your humanity, that grace shows up. And grace changes everything. Another story comes from Chicago, where David, a small business owner, watched his lifelong dream collapse during the pandemic. Everything he worked for crumbled in a matter of months. He felt like a failure, not just professionally, but personally. It was during one sleepless night, sitting alone in his shuttered cafe, that he began to pray. Not with eloquence, but with raw honesty. God, I've got nothing left. That prayer became a turning point. Not because God restored his business immediately, but because God began restoring him. Slowly, David reconnected with his family, found new purpose in mentoring younger entrepreneurs, and began serving at a local soup kitchen. Losing the business broke me, he admitted, but it also broke my pride. And in that breaking, I found a better version of myself, a more compassionate, more present man. This is what God does when life breaks you. He reshapes you, not back to who you were before, but into someone wiser, softer, stronger. He uses the ashes of your plans to plant seeds for a deeper future. That doesn't mean the journey is easy. Some days you may still ache, but you'll also find moments of unexpected peace, like sunlight slipping through storm clouds. You'll realize that healing isn't about forgetting what hurt you, but learning to live free even while remembering. Romans 8:28 reminds us, we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him. All things, not just the beautiful moments, but also the brutal ones. God doesn't waste pain, he repurposes it. Every loss, every letdown, every lonely night can become sacred ground when placed in the hands of God. So if today you feel broken, misunderstood, or forgotten, know this: you are being held right now, in this breath, in this heartbeat. You are not falling apart alone. The same hands that formed the stars are carrying you. And with each step, even if it's trembling, you are walking toward something new, not despite your pain, but through it. You may not yet see the full picture. The answers may still be unclear, but you can rest in this holy truth. When life breaks you, God holds you, and in his hands, even broken things can shine.
The desert is not the end. It's where God speaks. I will lead her into the desert and speak tenderly to her. Hosea 2:14. The desert is not where we choose to be. It's not a place you put on your vision board or pray to visit. It's dry, uncomfortable, lonely. There's no roadmap, no clear signposts, only you, your questions, and the silence. But the desert, in scripture and in life, has never been about punishment. It is about purification, transformation, and divine intimacy. When everything else is stripped away, when the noise of the world fades, and when your strength runs out, that is often where God speaks most clearly. Not in the chaos, but in the stillness. Not in the abundance, but in the lack. Think of the Israelites wandering for 40 years through the wilderness. They weren't lost, they were being led. Day by day, they received manna. Their clothes did not wear out. They were being trained to depend on God. What they saw as delay was, in truth, preparation. The same is true for us. Many people confuse silence with absence, but spiritual silence is not God's absence. It is often his invitation, his whisper, his sacred pause. And the desert is where that whisper becomes audible if we dare to listen. You might be in a desert season right now. Maybe you're waiting for a door to open, for clarity on a relationship, for healing in your body, for direction in your career. And the longer it drags on, the more tempted you are to believe that nothing is happening, but something is happening. Deep beneath the surface of your emotions and expectations, God is doing work that cannot be rushed. The desert isn't meant to destroy you, it's meant to draw you closer. Let's talk about Emma, a nurse in rural Ireland. After losing her fiancé in a tragic accident just months before their wedding, she went into what she called spiritual hibernation. She kept working, she smiled, but she stopped praying. What's the point? She often thought. The God she trusted seemed silent in her darkest hour. But one night, overwhelmed and unable to sleep, she opened the Psalms. Psalm 63 caught her eye. "O God, you are my God. Earnestly I seek you. My soul thirsts for you in a dry and weary land where there is no water." She broke. Not because the psalm answered all her questions, but because it understood them. It didn't fix the pain, it named it. And from that moment, a new kind of prayer began. Not one that demanded explanations, but one that offered honest presence. Her desert wasn't over, but it wasn't empty anymore. God had begun to speak, and he was tender. Why do we think that our pain disqualifies us from God's voice? Why do we assume that if we can't hear him loudly, he's not near? When Jesus went into the desert for 40 days, he wasn't escaping the world, he was preparing to engage it. And that preparation required silence, struggle, and solitude. The enemy met him there with temptations. Hunger haunted him. Yet it was in the desert that his identity as the Son of God was most fiercely tested and most firmly declared. Likewise, your desert season will test you. You will question your worth, your direction, even your faith. But here's the truth. The very fact that you are questioning means your soul is still reaching. That reaching is faith. Don't let the dryness convince you that nothing is growing. God often does his most transformative work in the soil we can't see. Sometimes the greatest miracles don't happen in crowded churches or on mountaintops. They happen in quiet apartments, dimly lit bedrooms, silent car rides. They happen when someone whispers, "God, I don't know what you're doing, but I'll stay." And in return, he whispers back, "I'm still here." In the desert, distractions lose their power. Social media doesn't satisfy. Achievements lose their shine. Relationships, though important, can't fill the ache. You are left with the one relationship that matters most, the one between you and your Creator. And it is in this sacred space where all false comforts fall away that you discover something eternal. You are not what you do, what you have, or how others see you. You are simply loved. In Arizona, we meet Marco, a retired engineer who spent his life building things, bridges, tunnels, systems. But when he retired, his identity collapsed. He found himself waking up without direction, without a reason to move. He told his priest, "I don't know who I am anymore." The priest, instead of giving advice, simply invited him to adoration once a week. At first, it felt empty, pointless, but week after week, Marco sat there. No words, no agenda, just silence. After several months, he began to notice something had changed, not externally, but inside. He no longer feared stillness. In fact, he craved it. That was the shift. The desert hadn't ended, but it had become holy. Friend, you don't need all the answers to move forward. You don't need everything figured out to be faithful. Sometimes the most courageous thing you can do is stay in the desert, knowing it will not last forever, and you will not leave it the same person you enter. Hosea 2:14 says, "I will lead her into the wilderness and speak tenderly to her." The tenderness of God is often drowned out by the busyness of life, but in the wilderness, it finds space to echo. Listen, he is speaking. One of the most beautiful lessons of the desert is this: God doesn't waste waiting. Every moment you think is unproductive, every prayer you think hits a wall, every tear you cry alone, he sees it, he counts it, he honors it. You may not be doing much, but in heaven's eyes, you are being formed. There's a slow, silent grace at work that cannot be measured by earthly metrics. And when you finally emerge from the desert, you will carry something more valuable than success or clarity. You will carry intimacy with God. Another story unfolds in Warsaw, Poland, where 26-year-old Alicja struggled with severe anxiety. She had graduated with honors, landed a great job, but felt paralyzed by fear every morning. Church felt distant. Friends didn't understand. One day, during a walk through a nearby forest, she sat under a tree and said aloud, "If you're real, show me." No lightning struck, no voices thundered, but a breeze swept through the trees and a memory surfaced, her grandmother praying decades ago. That simple recollection made her cry, and through those tears, she felt the beginning of something she hadn't felt in years: peace. It was subtle, but undeniable. "It was like God breathed on my anxiety," she said. The desert didn't vanish, but it was no longer empty. What if the desert is not a detour, but the main road? What if your season of waiting is not delaying your purpose, but deepening it? The saints knew this. St. John of the Cross called it the dark night of the soul, not to be feared, but embraced. Because in the darkness, faith becomes real. When you can't rely on emotions, signs, or answers, you are left with one thing: trust. And trust, when placed in God, is never wasted. Jesus didn't avoid the desert. He walked straight into it, and so do we. But we don't walk it alone. The same Spirit who led Jesus will lead you. The same strength that sustained him will sustain you. The same love that watched over him watches over you. So, what can you do in the desert? First, be honest. God can handle your questions, your anger, your confusion. He would rather have your raw, unfiltered heart than a polished performance. Pray like the psalmist did. Cry out, groan, even protest. He listens. Second, be still. Don't fill the silence. Let it speak. Turn off your phone. Sit in a park. Light a candle. Let your soul breathe. Third, be open. Pay attention to what God might be teaching you, not just through scripture, but through nature, music, art, people. The desert is full of symbols if you're willing to see them. And finally, be hopeful. The desert is never the end of the story. After the wilderness comes the promised land. After silence comes the song. After the cross comes the resurrection. What feels like emptiness now may become the soil of your greatest transformation. Isaiah 43:19 says, "See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? I am making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland." God is not idle. He is carving paths in places that seemed impassable. He is preparing you for things your eyes have not yet seen. Don't give up 5 minutes before the miracle. Don't rush the silence. Don't fear the stillness. You are not lost. You are being led. You are not forgotten. You are being formed, and you are not alone. You are being loved deeply, constantly, and tenderly. So let the desert do its work. Let it strip away what was never meant to stay. Let it clear the noise so the voice of your shepherd can be heard again. And when you emerge, may you not just have answers, but a new awareness of God's nearness. Because the desert is not the end. It's where God speaks.
Grace in the ordinary. God is in your everyday. Whatever you do, do it all for the glory of God. 1 Corinthians 10:31. We often imagine God's presence in the extraordinary, in the miracles, in the healing, in the mountaintop moments. And yes, He is there. But what if God is also in the moments you don't think are holy? The unpaid bills, the long traffic jam, the dirty dishes, the noise of children fighting, the quiet of an empty apartment, the checklist of errands and the slow drip of routine. These don't look like spiritual encounters. But what if they are? The truth is, God doesn't wait for you to step into a church to meet you. He walks with you through the aisles of the grocery store. He's beside you in the hum of the laundry machine. He whispers through your morning commute. Holiness is not limited to the sacred few. It is woven into the lives of the everyday faithful, those who show up, stay kind, serve well, and love deeply in places no one sees. There's a sacredness to the ordinary that we miss when we're always waiting for the big breakthrough. But grace isn't only for the grand. Grace saturates the ground we walk on. And when we become aware of that, even our most mundane days begin to shimmer with meaning. Consider Alex, a stay-at-home dad in Germany. Every day he wakes up before sunrise, packs lunches, helps with homework, scrubs dishes, and folds laundry while his wife works full-time. There's no applause, no promotions, no thank you cards, just repetition. For a while he struggled with purpose. Am I wasting my life? He wondered. One morning, while picking up spilled cereal from the kitchen floor, he remembered the verse from Colossians. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord, not for men. It clicked. His ordinary was worship. From that moment on, he began offering each act, each chore, each interruption, each meal, like a prayer. God, I do this for you. It changed everything. Not the tasks, but the perspective. His kitchen became a cathedral. His daily rhythms became sacraments of love. You don't have to be doing ministry to be doing God's work. Folding a shirt with love is ministry. Listening without judgment is ministry. Writing emails with integrity is ministry. Cleaning a hospital room with joy is ministry. If Jesus washed feet, nothing is beneath you. And if God became human and spent most of his life working with his hands in a carpenter's shop, then your daily life is not insignificant. It is sacred. We must stop dividing life into spiritual and secular. If Christ lives in you, then everything you do has the potential to carry eternal weight. A hug can heal. A note can restore. A meal can be communion. A phone call can be resurrection. You were made to reflect God's presence in every sphere of life, not just in your prayers, but in your parenting, in your projects, in your patience. Let's turn to Sophia, a 38-year-old nurse in Italy who works the night shift at a small-town hospital. Every evening as the sun sets, she puts on her scrubs and walks into a world most people ignore, hallways filled with pain, worry, and exhaustion. It's thankless work. But Sophia made a decision years ago. She would serve as if every patient were Christ himself. She greets each one with a smile. She prays quietly before changing IVs. She listens without rushing. And though most people never notice her spiritual discipline, God does. Sophia's story reminds us of Matthew 25, where Jesus says, "Whatever you did for one of the least of these, you did for me." That means even the smallest act of kindness carries eternal value. Whether it's helping someone across the street or wiping tears in a hospital room, you're serving the heart of God. The greatest saints weren't always preachers or martyrs. Many were mothers, workers, farmers, and teachers. Sainte Therese of Lisieux, known for her little way, taught that doing small things with great love is a path to holiness. She wrote, "I will seek out a means of getting to heaven by a little way, very short and very straight, by remaining little and becoming less." This little way of sweeping the floor with love, of enduring criticism with gentleness, of choosing kindness when you could choose pride, is the way of Christ. Let's be honest. Most of our lives are not made of big moments. They're made of small ones repeated over time. Waking up, getting dressed, making coffee, answering emails, commuting, cooking, talking, sleeping, repeat. And it's easy to believe that holiness lives outside this loop. But God isn't calling you to escape your life to find Him. He's calling you to invite Him in, to see Him in the toast, in the traffic, in the quiet moments when no one is watching. Tomas, a high school janitor in Portugal, found this out in a surprising way. Every morning before students arrived, he would walk through the empty halls, praying quietly for the children who would pass through them. No one asked him to. No one even knew. But he believed his job could be an act of intercession. Years later, at his retirement party, a former student, now a priest, shared that those early mornings, watching Tomas silently work with joy and humility, had inspired his vocation. "You are Christ to me," he said. Tomas had tears in his eyes. He never preached, but he lived the gospel. This is the invitation for all of us, to stop striving for significance and start sowing love in the soil of the ordinary, to see our work not as burdens, but as opportunities to become vessels of grace. You don't need to be impressive. You just need to be present. You don't need to do more. You just need to do what you're already doing, with love, with intention, with God. In a world obsessed with highlights, God delights in the behind the scenes. He sees the parent who gets up for the 3 a.m. feeding, the teacher who prays over their lesson plan, the cashier who treats every customer with dignity. These are not little acts. In the kingdom of God, they are royal deeds. When you invite God into your everyday, your life becomes a cathedral. And the beauty is, you don't have to change your job, move cities, or enter a convent to live a holy life. You just have to say, "Lord, be with me here, in this task, in this room, in this breath." And He will be. Practice noticing God today, not just in your morning prayer, but in your washing machine, in the smell of dinner, in the laughter of your child, in the emails you write, in the apology you offer. Every act is a canvas for grace, and every moment is a doorway to holiness if your heart is open. Don't underestimate the power of a life lived faithfully in the quiet. The saints in heaven are cheering you on. You are not forgotten. You are not insignificant, and you are not wasting your life. You are walking with God right now, even in your slippers, even in your sweatpants, even in your spreadsheets. So slow down, breathe. Offer your next cup of coffee like a prayer. Say thank you to the person who holds the door. Take 5 seconds to bless the driver in front of you. Leave a kind note. Listen fully. Hug tightly. Be gentle with yourself and with others. These are not small things. These are kingdom things. Mother Teresa once said, "Not all of us can do great things, but we can do small things with great love." And in the end, it's that love that will echo into eternity. The grace you pour into the ordinary is never wasted. It multiplies. It sanctifies. It transforms not just you, but the world around you. Friend, if you've been waiting for a holy moment to start living fully, this is it. This is the invitation, not to escape your life, but to embrace it. Not to search for God in the sky, but to see Him in the sink. Because He is there, always, patient, present, whispering your name. So let today be sacred. Not because it's different, but because you are different. Because you've seen that the sacred isn't somewhere far away. It's right here, in the ordinary, in your hands, in your heart, in your everyday. God is in your dishes. God is in your to-do list. God is in your next conversation. Don't miss Him. This is your cathedral. This is your calling. This is your grace. When the road is unclear, trust the guide. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your paths straight. Proverbs 3:5-6. There are seasons when life feels like walking through fog. You can't see what's ahead. You don't know if you're making the right decisions. You pray, but no clear answers come. You try your best, but the road ahead remains blurry. You want a map, but God offers you a hand. You want to see the destination, but God asks you to take the next step. This is one of the hardest truths of faith. God doesn't always give us clarity, but he always gives us guidance. And when the road is unclear, we're invited to trust the guide. Trusting God doesn't mean pretending to be strong or feeling confident all the time. It means continuing to move, even when you're scared. It means holding his hand when the lights go out. It means believing he is good, even when life is not. That kind of trust, deep, raw, courageous, becomes the bridge that carries you through uncertainty. Meet Elena, a single mother in Belgium. After losing her job unexpectedly, she was faced with the impossible choice between paying rent or buying food. Her resume had gone unanswered for months. Her savings were gone. She remembers standing in the kitchen one night, looking at an empty refrigerator, whispering, "God, where are you?" And yet something inside her whispered back, "Keep going." She applied to one more job, just one. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't even in her field, but it led to something unexpected. Community. The people she met opened doors. A year later, she found herself working with a nonprofit helping other struggling mothers. "It's not the life I planned," she says, "but it's the life I was led into, and it's beautiful." Sometimes, God doesn't answer your questions because he's trying to answer you. He's not as interested in explaining the route as he is in developing your trust. And trust is only real when it's tested, when nothing is certain, when the path is winding, when your plans fall apart. That's when trust becomes a holy decision. We all want signs. We want confirmation. We want to know that we're on the right track before we move. But more often than not, faith works in reverse. You move first, then clarity comes. Abraham didn't receive detailed instructions. God simply told him, "Go to the land I will show you." No map, just motion. And that obedience changed history. It's the same for you. You don't need to have it all figured out to start walking. You don't need a blueprint. You need a belief that the one who calls you is faithful, that he sees what you don't, that he knows what you need before you even ask, and that he is not in a rush, but he is never late. When you try to control every outcome, you'll wear yourself out. When you cling too tightly to your own timeline, you'll end up frustrated and bitter. But when you release your grip, even just a little, and say, "God, I trust you with this," peace begins to enter. It's not passive, it's powerful. Because trust doesn't mean inaction, it means intentional surrender. Consider Marcus, a college student in Denmark. He was unsure whether to pursue medicine or music. His father wanted him to be a doctor. His heart longed for melody. For months he wrestled. One night, during adoration at his university chapel, he prayed a dangerous prayer. "God, if music is your will, open doors. If not, close them." Days later, he received an invitation to a mentorship program in Vienna. He said yes. Today, he writes music for liturgies and retreats across Europe. He says, "It wasn't the path I imagined, but it's the one that fits the soul God gave me." That's what happens when we trust the guide. He leads us not just to outcomes, but to ourselves, to the person we were created to be, to the life we were made to live. And sometimes that life looks nothing like what we planned, but everything like what we prayed for deep in our spirit. When words didn't come. Trusting God isn't about becoming passive. It's about being courageous in surrender. It's choosing to let go of the illusion of control so that something far better can take root. Faith. Faith that your steps matter even when they feel small. Faith that your delays are not denials. Faith that God is not punishing you, He's preparing you. Saint Joseph is a quiet but powerful example of this. He never speaks a word in Scripture, but his actions resound with trust. Imagine being told that your fiancé is carrying the Son of God. Imagine being asked to raise a child you didn't plan for in a way you didn't expect. Joseph didn't argue. He didn't panic. He trusted. And because of his quiet obedience, salvation entered the world. We need that kind of trust today. Not flashy, not loud, but rooted, still, steady. Trust that continues to walk even when the road disappears. Trust that obeys even when the outcome is unknown. But what do you do when you've been walking and still nothing changes? That's when you hold tighter to His promises than your feelings. Because feelings are real, but they are not always true. God's word is always true. He promised, "I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. I will counsel you with my loving eye on you." Psalm 32:8. Hold on to that. Let it anchor you when storms rise. Let it ground you when doubt whispers. Let it lift you when you feel like giving up. Emily, a middle-aged teacher in the Netherlands, lived this firsthand. After a failed marriage and years of battling depression, she felt numb to life. Faith felt like fantasy. One night she read the story of the disciples on the road to Emmaus. Jesus walked with them, but they didn't recognize Him until they broke bread. She realized God had been walking with her too, unseen, unacknowledged, but present. And that realization became her turning point. You may not see God right now, but He sees you. You may not feel Him, but He's walking beside you. You may not understand the season you're in, but He's already written the next chapter. And His plans are not to harm you, but to give you hope and a future. So take the next step. Send the application, make the call, write the song, open the door, forgive the person, say yes, say no. Move forward, not because you're confident in yourself, but because you're confident in the one who walks with you. Let go of the need to predict every outcome. Trust that God is more interested in shaping your heart than in giving you answers. And remember, even detours are part of the divine design. What feels like a wrong turn might just be a redirection to something deeper, richer, better. One day you'll look back and thank God for the unanswered prayers, the closed doors, the confusing seasons, because they were never meant to break you. They were meant to build you, and they did. Right now, where you are, breathe. Say this with me in your heart. God, I trust you, even when I don't understand, even when I can't see, even when I'm afraid. I trust you to lead me. Let that become your anthem. Let it become your habit. Let it become your lifestyle. Because when the road is unclear, it's not the clarity that saves you. It's the trust. And the one you trust is faithful. Always. No exceptions. No delays. No distance too great. He knows the way, and He will not let your foot slip.
Walk boldly. You were made for more. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. Joshua 1:9. There comes a time in every believer's life when you're called to rise. Not because everything feels ready, not because you have all the answers, but because the fire in your heart is greater than the fear in your mind. This is the moment when God calls you to walk boldly, not perfectly, not without mistakes, but boldly, with your head held high and your heart wide open, because you were made for more than survival. You were made for purpose. Walking boldly doesn't mean walking without fear. It means walking through fear with faith. It's the courage to move forward when the odds seem stacked against you. It's choosing to act when you'd rather shrink back. It's speaking up when silence feels safer. It's stepping into your calling when doubt tells you to sit down. Let's meet Lucas, a young man in France who always dreamed of starting a ministry for street youth. He had ideas, vision, passion, but no resources, no support. He kept waiting for the perfect moment. It never came. One day, during morning mass, the homily was about Peter walking on water. The priest said, "Sometimes God waits for you to take the first step before he parts the sea." That hit him deeply. The next day, Lucas bought a notebook and wrote the first outline for his ministry. Within a year, he had a team of volunteers. Today, they feed, pray with, and mentor over 200 teens a month. He says, "If I had waited to be ready, I would still be waiting. But God met me when I moved, friend." Maybe God is waiting for you to move. Maybe the miracle won't come before the step, but after. Maybe the boldness you need isn't a feeling. Maybe it's a decision. You don't need to be fearless. You just need to be willing. You were not created for comfort zones. You were created to change the atmosphere around you by the power of the Spirit within you. The early church was made up of ordinary people, fishermen, tax collectors, women, servants, and yet they turned the world upside down. Why? Because they walked boldly. They had seen the risen Christ. They had encountered the living God, and that encounter gave them a courage that couldn't be stolen, not by threats, not by persecution, not even by death. You have that same spirit in you, the spirit that raised Christ from the dead, the spirit that calms storms, heals wounds, and conquers darkness. It's not a question of whether you're enough. You are not. But God is. And when you walk with Him, your weakness becomes a doorway to His strength. There will always be reasons to hold back. You'll never feel totally ready. You'll always be tempted to wait for better timing, better conditions, more clarity. But the people who change the world aren't the ones who wait. They're the ones who walk. They fall, they rise, they keep going. Not because they're confident in themselves, but because they're confident in the one who walks beside them. Think of Esther, a Jewish girl hidden in a palace, facing a genocidal threat against her people. She could have stayed silent. Instead, she stepped forward. "If I perish, I perish," she said. That's boldness, not recklessness, not bravado, but holy surrender, a readiness to be used, whatever the cost. And think of Jesus walking toward the cross. He didn't flinch. He didn't flee. He walked boldly toward pain, betrayal, and death because love led him there. That's our model. Not comfort, but courage. Not self-preservation, but self-giving. That's what it means to walk boldly. Boldness might look different for each of us. For one person, it might mean forgiving someone who hurt you. For another, it might mean ending a toxic relationship. It could be launching a business that aligns with your values, or opening your heart to love again, or finally telling your story. Whatever it looks like, boldness will always require trust. One woman in Sweden, Ingrid, had been through a painful divorce and carried shame for years. She thought her life was over, but one evening she felt the nudge to attend a small group. At first, she resisted. "I don't belong in a church anymore," she told herself, but she went. And that one night changed everything. Through that group, she found healing, friendship, and a new calling to counsel other women walking through the same valley. God didn't erase my story, she says. He gave it purpose. You too have a story. You too have something inside of you that the world needs. Don't let fear bury it. Don't let shame silence it. Don't let doubt paralyze it. You were created on purpose, for a purpose. And yes, the road may be risky. You may lose things. People may misunderstand you. But walking with God was never meant to be safe. It was meant to be good. Boldness is not the absence of vulnerability. It's the willingness to show up anyway. It's saying, "Here I am, Lord. Send me." It's stepping into the unknown with nothing but faith and obedience. And in doing so, you step into miracles. So how do you walk boldly? Start where you are. Stop waiting for the perfect conditions. Use what's in your hands. God multiplies what you move with. Surround yourself with faith. Community fuels courage. Walk with those who remind you who you are and whose you are. Stay rooted in the Word. Let Scripture become your soundtrack. Let truth drown out fear. Pray dangerously. Don't just ask God for safety. Ask Him for strength, for purpose, for holy fire. Remember your why. You're not walking for applause. You're walking for impact, for eternity. And when the fear rises, as it will, go back to this promise. I will be with you wherever you go. That means in every risk, every step, every new beginning, you are not alone. You don't walk with anxiety as your companion. You walk with God. Imagine what your life could look like if you stopped playing small. If you stopped letting your past define your future. If you stopped shrinking your dreams to fit your comfort zone. Imagine walking into every room knowing you carry heaven's authority. Imagine waking up with fire in your bones, knowing you are here for a reason. That's what walking boldly looks like. That's what walking with God does. So rise up, dust off your fear, shake off the shame, take the step, speak the truth, start the thing, reach the person, trust the process, and know this: heaven is cheering you on. You were made for more. Keep walking. God is with you. If you take one message from this entire journey, let it be this: you are never alone. From the darkest valley to the highest mountain, from the mundane to the miraculous, from your first breath to your final sigh, God walks with you. So walk boldly, walk honestly, walk humbly, but most of all, keep walking. Even when the road is uncertain, even when the desert lingers, even when life breaks you open, keep walking. Because God is faithful. He sees you. He hears you. He loves you. You are not forgotten. You are not too broken. You are not behind. You are exactly where He can find you.